Good morning, all. So here we are for the demo of Kofax Training. So let's start with the MindMajix. I have completed my Bachelor of Engineering in Information and Science Engineering in 2015, and I'm from Nippani, that is North Karnataka, and I'm 28 years old. So about my experience, like I have experience in Kofax RPA tool, that is the RPA development tool, and having 6 years of experience, relative field experience. And about my professional work experience, like I have worked in 4 to 5 organizations, and I have been to Malaysia for the same RPA development for 1 year, and I have completed my project in Malaysia in 2019 January to December, and after that I have came back to India, and currently I am working in Infosys as a senior associate consultant, and I know 4 languages, that is like Marathi, Hindi, English, and Kannada. Okay, moving to the next slide. Yeah, so the scope of the demo. So in this demo, we'll be understanding what is RPA, the tools, and the RPA's life cycle. So what is RPA? RPA stands for Robotics Process Automation, and this RPA. So if we go for the definition, then obviously like the RPA, it is the process of automating the workflows, and which with the help of the softwares or the robots, and without the human involvements. So that is the reason it is called as a robot process the automation. And this automation actually comes in the picture since the early 1950s, but recently it has started gaining the recognition, and with this RPA, the robotics process automation being the leader of this automation sector. So in this RPA, there comes the three main terms, that is robot, process, and automation. So let us understand what is this robot, process, and automation. So the entity which mimics the human actions, or the which copies the human actions, are called as a robots. And the process, for the process, like process, it is the sequence of steps which which leads to the meaningful activity. For example, we can say it as a, like the process of making tea or preparing food, like which includes the step of like sequence of steps to prepare the food or the making the tea. So yeah, and moving forward, like automation. So any process which can be done without the intervention or the involvement of the human is known as automation. So summarizing these three terms, the robot, process, automation, so we can say as mimicking the human action to perform a sequence of steps which leads to meaningful activity, and with the help of robot and without the human intervention, is known as a robot process automation. Hope this clears the understanding of the robot process automation. And yeah, so, and moving forward to the RPA tools, like since in the industry of the RPA, we do not have the physical robot to perform these actions, or the, so we need a tool which can do the work, or like which can be used to configure the steps to do the automation of the process. So in the market there are a lot of RPA tools. So like for example, the Kofax Kapao, for which we are having this demo, and the other tools are like UiPath, Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism, Work Fusion, Pegasystem, uh, and Microsoft Process Automation. So each and every tools are having their own benefits and limitations, obviously. So this Kofax tool is like very much famous in outside India, and recently the Kofax have entered into the Indian market for the automation, and it has started growing up very fastly. And hope like with after getting the experience in this Kofax or Kofax Kapao, obviously we will be the great assets to the industry, obviously. Yeah, and moving forward to the next point, like RPA life cycle. So this RPA life cycle consists of the 4 phases, like analysis, development, testing, and the deployment. And deployment comes with the actual deployment and maintenance or the support as well. So For the example, let us take an example of extracting the data from a website. So for that, I'll give you a brief explanation about these four phases. So while extracting the data, so before extracting, so we will be having the requirement gatherings in the project scope. But in the RPA scope, we will be having the requirements with us and the websites from which we want to extract the data. So we will be doing all the going through all these phases like step by step as analysis, analyzing the websites. Like we will be aware of the requirements, so we will be going through the websites, like what are all the processes or steps we have to perform in the robot, so that we will be completing the task of extracting the particular data from the website. So for that, we'll be analyzing the ways or the alternative ways. How can we get the data from the website? So easiest way will be the better for the robot performance, obviously. And then after analyzing, we'll be going for the actual development of the robot, for where we'll be using the tool. And with the tool editor, we'll be creating the steps of the robot and configuring it to uh, perform the meaningful activity. And after developing the robot, we'll be going to the testing phase, where we'll be testing the quality of the robot, and like what are all the like if the robot is performing as expected or not, if the robot is as optimized as like efficiently working or not, and robot is taking as less time as like compared to humans or not. So if the robot is taking less time than the human, then obviously it will be beneficial for the organizations or the industries where we will be deploying these robots. And we'll be going to the deployment. So deployment phase, where we'll be after the testing, we'll be like confirming the quality of the robot is good, then we'll be going for the deployment and we'll deploy the robot into the live environment. And after the deployment, we'll be doing the maintenance and support work, where like if the incidents come or say a critical issue comes into the robot, then obviously we'll be maintaining and giving support to that robot in the live environment. Okay, so moving to the next slide, the course outline. So in this course, we will be learning the RPA industry, like robot process automation, or what are all the things comes in the robot RPA and the RPA life cycle. So which I have already explained. So all these four phases we will be understanding in detail. And tool, the as I already mentioned, we'll be having the Kofax tool in this course. So this is the tool like which used to mimic the daily and the repetitive work where humans do the same work daily. So there we can deploy the robots and we can remove the involvement of the humans in these repetitive jobs. Yeah, and the next topic will be like Kofax Design Studio. This is the editor where we will be developing the robot, and then we will be configuring the robot steps and executing the robot and checking whether the robot is giving correct output or not, and developing our first robot and deploying the robot. Then after development, obviously the testing and deployment will come. So deploying the robot into the management console. So this management console is like, this is the environment where we will be uploading the developed robots, and we will execute those robots in that management console. So execution will comes again like attended robots and unattended robots. We can say like, okay, we can manually run the robots or automatically run the robots. So manually running will be like we can run at any at our time, like any time which we need to, like when the human will be available, human can go and click on the run button and run the robot. And automatic run will be like we'll be scheduling the robot execution time, and at that particular time robot automatically starts execution. Yeah, moving to the next slide. Yeah, add-on topics. So add-on topics will be like, for to understand this kapow design studio or the robot under robot development configuration, configuring the steps and all, we need the basic HTML tags. So for example, like website, so if we go to the website's source code, then obviously there will be HTML tags from in which the data will be stored. So we have to understand those HTML tags, basic HTML tags, like to configure the robot steps, and like configuring then like that particular tags, like robot, we will train the robot to extract this text from this particular tag and all. So few of the tags will be there. So in the course, I'll be explaining those tags as well. And simple Java concepts. Maybe like this is like optional. If you know the Java concept, that is also good. And if you don't know, then also no problem. So during this course, I will be explaining those concepts in the while explaining the design studio or the tool. This Java concept consists like looping and try alternative and error handling concept. So these are the simple concepts are there. So not oops concepts are not required in this. So we can go through the simple concepts during this course as well. Yeah, and additional course resources. So during this course, so we will be having the PDFs of the sessions. So I will be providing the PDFs and even the developers guide. So developers guides comes with the RPA tool. So whenever you will be getting stuck, so you can just go to the developers guide and check what are all the issues you are facing and how can you come up with that on that issues and how can you resolve and move forward to the next step, obviously. And yeah, moving forward to the next slide, like projects. So we will be having two simple projects, like this can be seen as a demo projects or as a industry projects as well, because most of the works will be having this RPA like robots we will be using for web scraping and data storing and uploading the data. So for that, I have included the all the three concepts like extra web scraping, storing the data, and uploading the data in these two projects. So first one will be like extracting the product details from the websites. So any websites we can consider and we can open the website. So we can see here as a process sequence of steps like open the website, go to particular option and extract the details on that page, like the required details that we will be having. We can even discuss the requirement gathering, where one simple test case we will be creating, and with that test case we will be developing the robots in this project. And so we'll extract the details from that particular web page and we will be showing it on the output of the design studio. And so once we show the output, then we have to store that output in some files or in the database. So for that, the project 2 comes like extracting and storing the details in the Excel file. So Excel file can work as an input as well as the output as well from the robot. So for the input, we have to extract the details from the Excel sheet, and for the output, we have to store the data into Excel sheet. So in this project, we will see how to open the Excel sheet, how to extract the data from the Excel sheet, and then we will be storing the extracted data, or from the website we can the extracted data we can store in different Excel sheets and save that file, or even we can mail it to the email ID of the customer or anyone, like even to us. We can mail it and we can run this management into the management console and we'll get the mails, or we can see the file is getting stored in some folder structure. So moving forward, the lab setup. So for this tool, actually, we need high-speed internet and desktop or laptop. So for the system requirement, there are no much system requirements. So basic requirements, we can see it as Microsoft Windows 7 or 10 we can say have, and 500 GB of hard disk is enough for this, and RAM is 8 GB or 16 GB is also enough. CPU is a 4 core, obviously. So these are the basic requirements. So no big requirements are there. Yeah, mock interviews. So in this mock interviews, I'll be having a basic mock interview, mock test, and advanced mock test. So in the basic mock test, we'll be having a theoretical test, and in the advanced mock test, we may have a hands-on mock test as well. So where I'll be asking you guys to develop a robot. That is optional, as obviously, or I can ask you to explain the robot steps, how you guys can go through this from the particular test case, and how you develop the robot and how you will perform all the actions from end to end. So the certification. So for this Kofax, we are like we can get the certification from the Kofax education website, but there is actually it is a paid certification. So we'll have a look on it. During the course, like, or after the course completion, I can guide you guys through the Kofax certification, like how to study for the Kofax the certification, and how to crack this certification as well. So it is not that advanced certification. It is a basic certification where they will be asking you the conceptual questions, and you need to answer those questions. That is a multiple choice questions will be there. Answers will be there. Yeah. So I think I'm done with the demo. So if you have any questions, then you guys can ask, or you guys can share the feedback and contact us on the email ID and the phone numbers given. In the course outline, like we will be learning the basics of the Kapao. So Kapao Design Studio, and in this design studio, we are having two types of robots, like web scraping, web automation and desktop automation. So in this web automation, we will be automating the websites where suppose, for example, we can say websites of electronic devices or the mechanical devices, like automobile devices, sorry, and even we can say as a mobiles or other electric machines, or the electronic components like registers and all these things. So we will be having the details of those products. So those product details, or the images also, we can the product details in the sense like product name, what is the capacity of the product, what are all the configurations of the product, what is the uh, life cycle of that product, or even the price, and some brief descriptions and all. So we can extract those details from the websites, and have, after extracting, we can store it into the Excel sheet as per like requirement. So suppose the requirement will be like, okay, we want these many columns in the Excel sheet, and these will be the headings, and also we can prepare the headings as well, and we can give, we can store the extracted details row by row into the Excel sheet. Okay. And for this comes in web automation. And other type of web automation, we can see it as a, like, taking Excel sheet as an input and extracting the data from the Excel sheet and uploading it into the web application. So suppose like filling the online forms, or filling the bank forms, we can say. So that comes in, like the live projects will be having, like we have to fill the banking forms. Then we will be having the inputs into the Excel sheet. So where the robot will be looping the Excel sheet row by row and taking the input one row each. So so robot will take the first row data, extract it, and it will process the data, and then it will open the website, particular websites, entering the credentials as well. So we need not to interfere into that actions, like we are giving the means open websites, enter the credentials and all. So robot automatically performs those actions, goes to particular option, and then robot will enter those extracted data from the Excel sheet, and it will also able to submit those like the forms. So, and even we can create the logs of those particular actions, like what are all the rows are completed, uploading the data into the Excel, into the application website. So maintaining the logs, so we can get to know that what are all the details robot have entered into the applications, and how many inputs robots have processed, so that user or customer will get to know that, okay, these are all the things are completed, and these are all the things are yet to complete. So these things comes in web automation. And for the desktop automation, this is the new functionality comes in around 2 to 3 years into picture. So in this desktop automation, again we are having two types. So Chromium desktop automation and the terminal desktop automation. Where so let's see how this Chromium desktop automation works. So in this Chromium, actually we are having a separate browser. For the web automation, we are having Mozilla browser configured. So that is the only one browser will be there for the web automation. And for this Chromium automation, we can use Chrome as well as the Internet Explorer. So we can see few of the websites are not compatible with the Mozilla Firefox. So we can use this Chromium desktop automation to load those particular websites and perform the actions. So this Chromium desktop automation will create its own environment in the same system, and again we can go load the particular websites and extract those particular details. But there are few step changes in the desktop automation that I will be explaining obviously during the course. And so web automation and desktop automation are almost same, but only few steps are different, and few actions we need to do it differently than the web automation. Okay, so in the Chromium desktop automation, we can extract those things, and then again we have to return back those things as a to the web automation robot. So this desktop automation will work as a function, separate function, where we will be calling that function from web automation robot, and that Chromium desktop automation or the terminal desktop automation will perform that particular action and return its output to the web automation robot. And then we will performing the actions of storing the data into Excel sheet or the database based on the customer's comfort. Yeah. So, and in the terminal desktop automation, here we will be having one extra system or virtual machine where we will be executing the actions, performing the actions. Like suppose for the banking, for security, they will be having one old systems or like Linux system or some different terminals will be there for the banks. So they will be like they will be running on virtual machines. So we can control that from our system through Design Studio. So we can implement this desktop automation, and we can connect to that particular terminal. So before that, we have to connect that virtual machine to management console. So from our system, our Design Studio will be having the management console, and for that system, we will be connecting to management console. So through management console, we can connect our system to that particular virtual machine and performing the actions. Again, for the same, like from web automation robot, we will be sending the particular values, and we will be calling that function, and that function, the desktop automation, the terminal desktop automation will perform its automation, and it will complete the actions like uploading the data or inserting the data into that particular database, and then it comes back with the output of that process, and it will return this output to web automation, and this web automation will keep the logs of this all the details. So in this course we will be learning how the web automation will be performed and how the desktop automation will be performed, and what are all the scope of this particular automations, like where we can perform, where we can decide like in which scenario we have to use this web automation and which scenario we have to use the desktop automation scenario thing. So we will be understanding all these things during this course, and obviously during the projects as well. So I will be there to help in during the projects, and you will be understanding the concepts, and during hands-on you will be getting to know how to configure these steps and how to call this particular function in from the main function. So for the simple Java concept, I already mentioned, like, so the web automation robot will be performing as a main program, and this desktop automation will be performing as a separate function, where from the main function, if required, we will be calling this function, and this function will be performing the actions. It will be returning its output to the main program, and main program will complete its execution. So this scenario you have already learned from your academics. So after this, I can say
This conference will now be recorded.
in the Design Studio, we can create the projects. So these projects will consist of three main folders, like robots, snippets, and the types. So in the robots, we will be developing the robots. Like we can consider this robot as a program, and snippets. These snippets we can consider in Java program. We have already heard about the jar files, where we will be having a code lines of codes which will be written once and used multiple times. So like this, the same concept in the Design Studio we are having as a snippets. So in these snippets, we will be having a particular step up codes which are grouped, and we can use this as a jar file. So here we can say as like send mail. So for sending mail, every time we will be performing the same actions, like okay, go to the mail and send the mail. So for that we just have to send for which email id we have to send the mail. So that we can configure it already, and we just send the details to jar file, like the snippet, and snippet will do its action every time. So that is like write once and use multiple times code. And the third folder will be having as a type. So type, this one we can say it as a variables. So these variables which we will be using during this robot development, like extracted data we will be storing into one variable, or we will be using these variables to do few actions like changing the data or formatting the data. So during this we'll be requiring, we require few variables. So in this type we can have two types, like simple variables and complex variables. So simple variables are like variables which are of type number types, short text, long text, or binary, or we can say image, XML, or HTML variables as well. So where we can save the HTML tags or the HTML code into that variable. And the complex variables are like these are the variables which includes of multiple variables of different types. So we can say that like a particular group complex variable is having of the three four types, which consists of like three four variables, which consists of like number variable, short text variable, binary variable, image variable. So we can combine these four variables into one complex variable. So this we can say it as a type. And these types we can like group multiple variables into one type, and we can use this in the robot. So that will make us the optimized robot. So the developer, like other developers, will not get confused between the variables. Like if we create simple variables, then it will be a list of variables, but if we create a type, then it will be a single type, but it will include number of variables. So that will be like a systematic development, or we can say it as a standard development. With this, like we can optimize the complexity of the robot. Even there are a group system in the design studio, where we will be grouping the number of steps which will make the robot to like which will make the developers, other developers, to see the robot in a very compact manner, and that will be like optimized way. So the other developers will understand, okay, so this group is performing this kind of actions or this type of actions. So that will be easy to understand and user friendly. So no technical, not much technical background is required to understand this RPA. So it will be easy to go. Yeah, that's it for this demo.